Israel understands that it has a PR problem, a big one. We know for a fact now at this point that your boy Bibi offered Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, $150 million to infuse into Turning Point USA. Thank God he declined it. But trust me, that $150 million was for a reason. The reason why is because Jonathan Greenblatt, the ADL, and many others understand that the youth of the United States are wildly against Israel. As they're wrapping up their war in Gaza and ramping up to probably go to war with Iran here sometime before the end of the year, they are going to go on a media blitz. And in this media blitz, Benjamin Netanyahu and all the billionaire Zionists in America are going to wage a war on everyone that is critical of Israel. Yeah, let's just go ahead and have this uncomfortable conversation right now. Let's just go ahead and have it. I literally was talking about this on Twitter earlier, but let's go ahead and have it. The criticism of Israel, the criticism of them boys, the criticism of Zionism, all that stuff, enjoy it while you guys can. It's absolutely going to get reeled in. It's absolutely going to get reeled in. Okay? Right? Prior to October 7th, okay? And I can say this as somebody that was talking about this shit before it became safe and cool to talk about it. All right? Guys like myself, Nico, Zerka, Nick Fuentes, we were all talking about this shit before it became safe, all right? And I will tell you, a large part of the reason why we got demonetized on YouTube was about talking about this topic. All right? So let's just go ahead and deal with this right now. As we speak, the Israeli government, as well as American Zionists, are finding ways to deal with what I call the Great Awakening, okay? Over the past 2 years, in large part because of October 7th and the genocide that quickly followed October 7th and the unrestricted aggression from Israel across all of the Middle East against all of their neighbors, American citizens have been exposed to the ugly reality of our foreign policy. And the Israeli government and American Zionists are dealing with something that they didn't have to deal with 20 years prior. What is that? They don't have to deal with alternative media, okay? It was easy to get rid of Alex Jones 20 years ago. It was easy to discount people as conspiracy theorists 20 years ago. It was easy for neocons and pro-Israel Zionists to go ahead and sit there and tell you, oh no, the Dancing Israelis is a anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. Larry Silverstein did not take out some weird terrorism policy. It was easy to discount all of that 20 years ago. But now, with the explosion of alternative media, with the explosion of the internet, and the explosion of individuals who are willing to critically think and social media platforms, mainstream media, legacy mainstream media, no longer has the monopoly on the flow of information. It used to be we tuned into CNN, Fox, MSNBC, etc. for our news. After 9/11, for all of you guys that are old enough to remember, there was something called the War on Terror. It led us to invading Afghanistan, invading Iraq. It led to an aggressive foreign policy that was predicted back in 1996, thanks to something called the Clean Break Memo, okay? This Clean Break Memo, written by a bunch of neocons, okay? You know what? If we're going to go ahead and have this discussion, let's go ahead and have it right.
Every single time, every single crime, every single lie, early lie, every single hour, every single day, every single night, early lie. I know it's hard to believe it's the whole forest, not one tree, and it's every branch and leaf. They're born to deceive, but I'm telling you the truth. It's not just one or two, it's every single Jew. They all hate you, and it really breaks my heart. But their lies are off the charts, and they only bring us harm. You gotta get smart. So if you want to be safe and don't want to get replaced, it's best you start being based, or you'll get erased. Every single time, every single crime, every single lie, early life, every single hour, every single day, every single night, early life. I know it's hard to accept that all the ones you've met lie with every single breath. They want you dead, but you
Now, this paper, okay, basically went ahead and illustrated what America would do in its foreign policy over the next coming years, okay? And this paper was written back in 1996, and the authors of this paper basically, you know, Douglas Pearl, Richard Pearl, Douglas Feith, Wormser, all these guys, right, are basically, neocons, right? Super pro Israel neocons. And these individuals later became the architects of the Iraq War, okay? And there was an intense propaganda push to link 9/11 to the Iraq War, to justify the Iraq War. And many neocons pushed for this connection in government and even in media. You guys don't believe me?
Every single time, every single crime, every single lie, early life, every single hour, every single day, every single.
Now, Judy Miller was one of the main people in the media that was going ahead and pushing, this propaganda to get us to go to war with Iraq. Hell, she tried to connect the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, okay? And yeah, if you're wondering, yeah, every single time. So why am I telling you guys all this history? I'm telling you guys this history so that you guys understand that the narrative used to be controlled by a small group of people that had an insane amount of power, that had a vested interest in the protection of Israel, okay? And the protection of Israel, unfortunately, is heavily contingent upon the destruction of their neighbors. I'm going to say that again for you guys so you understand. The security of Israel that was outlined in the Clean Break memo, okay, is heavily dependent and contingent upon the destruction of their neighbors. For those of you that are not maybe geographically inclined, okay, Israel, in case you live under a rock, is literally surrounded by its enemies, okay? This is the Middle East. Here is Israel. To the south, you have Egypt. To the east, you have Jordan. Guess who we give a bunch of money to? Jordan and Egypt. Why? So they play nice by Israel, and it saves us having to worry about their south and their east. However, to the north, you have Lebanon. They hate them, aka Hezbollah. You got Hamas down here in the Gaza Strip, okay? You have Iraq, Syria, Iran, obviously, right? All these countries do not like Israel. Sudan, the entire Middle East does not like Israel. Israel's either destroyed them or we've paid them off. And the only country that's left now, that was mentioned in this Clean Break memo, is basically Iran. They toppled Saddam Hussein, who was the main guy that they needed to get rid of. Back in 1996, they were talking about this. And these are American government officials writing a paper for who? Your boy Benjamin Netanyahu, who is still in power to this day. So now that we've established, right, 90s, Clean Break memo comes out. 2001, 9/11. 2002, Benjamin Netanyahu comes to the United States, talks about why we need to take out Saddam, weapons of mass destruction, etc. We're able to link Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker, to Iraqi intelligence forces. This is what they used to get us to go to war with Iraq. We go to war with Iraq. Don't find any of these weapons of mass destruction. We find out that it was the Israeli intelligence services that gave us this bullshit information about Mohammed Atta meeting these Iraqi officials. The anthrax thing was a lie, right? But by then, it's too late. We're already in the Middle East. We're already there. We're in Afghanistan. We're in Iraq. We're fighting and destroying all of these countries. Who benefits? Israel. Because Saddam Hussein at the time was their biggest enemy. Now Iran's their biggest enemy. All of this was extremely censored for a very long time. If you talked about any of this stuff, you would get banned on social media so fast.
Welcome, punch!
It's not even funny. I'm giving you guys all this information so you guys understand the context of what has been going on. And talking about this stuff would get you banned. You look at people like Ryan Dawson, right? Banned for 2+ decades. You look at people that he's worked with in the past, they get banned. Nick Fuentes has been talking about this forever. Banned. It wasn't until October 7th happened, alongside the ability to use alternative media, right, that we finally started to see the ugly side of our greatest ally. And what is that ugly side that we saw? That ugly side was basically that our ally gets billions of dollars from us to drop bombs on babies indiscriminately, kill them, and then use the guise of self-defense. Unbeknownst to a lot of Americans, they've been doing this for decades. Because once we saw how aggressively Israel responded after the October 7th attacks, a lot of people went and did their research, but they mistakenly went ahead and did that research on TikTok. And at the time, TikTok, a Chinese platform, right, was heavily based on natural algorithms. And what I mean by this is it wasn't as monitored and restricted to the same degree as YouTube, as Facebook, as Meta, as Google, which are all run by, if you're wondering, yes, them boys, right? So TikTok was 70% pro-Palestine versus the 30% that was pro-Israel. This was very bad, and I'll tell you why. This was bad because the people that use TikTok are young, okay? So this created alarms all over the Zionist community. People like Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL correctly understood that if this information started to get out there, the youth, the generation would be woken up to the evils of Israel. So what did he do? He moved immediately to get TikTok banned. Too late. Because between the research, between the explosion of pro-Palestine content on TikTok, people woke up. Then, prominent podcasters, right, that had been historically pro-Israel, like Candace Owens, like Tucker Carlson, step up and say, yo, I'm a Christian. Why is Israel dropping bombs on churches in Palestine, in Gaza? Why are they killing children? The videos and the pictures of kids with dismembered limbs, starving, dying, make their way to Twitter. That red-pilled everybody. That red-pilled everybody. Because now, Americans, for the first time, started to see where their tax dollars were really going. They thought their greatest ally was just defending themselves. But after October 7th, they saw that our greatest ally was destroying their enemies, to include killing innocent people in the process with zero regard. And seeing babies dying and starving and getting blown to smithereens bothered a lot of people. People that were historically pro-Israel started to question why we support Israel. People started to figure out that the atrocity propaganda of 40 beheaded babies, the mass grapes, etc., were a lie. Then, while this was going on, the October 7th, people started to question other narratives. Who killed JFK? What actually happened on 9/11? Did the buildings fall down through controlled demolition? Were there Israelis in the buildings before? Who is E-Team? Who are these dancing Israelis? Wait, two of them were intelligence assets? What? A naval ship was attacked by the Israelis in the 60s? And Lyndon B. Johnson made these guys sign gag orders? Oh boy. It was not looking good for the Zionists.
Welcome, punch!
Because what they didn't understand was that October 7th, though the entire world was behind them, after Israel gave their relentless, merciless response to the Gaza Strip and started killing people indiscriminately, people started to ask, how the f are they getting away with this? And then they started to realize all the crimes that have been going on since the 1960s. And how Israeli and Zionist fingerprints are all over these historical events that no one was ever able to discuss. Now, we're looking at the 9/11 situation differently. Now, we're watching the JFK film with a new set of eyes. Now, we're second guessing what happened to our boy JFK? What happened to his brother RFK? Oh shit, Israel has nuclear weapons? Just red pills all over the place. Now that you guys understand the history, what it was like before October 7th, now what it's like after October 7th, we have to deal with what's going on now. Israel understands that it has a PR problem, a big one. Benjamin Netanyahu, if you guys haven't caught on, has been doing several interviews, okay, all across American media platforms. At this point, he's done Trigonometry. He did Brandon Tatum. He did the Nelk Boys, which they got a lot of heat for that one. And I predict that he's going to do a couple other interviews. And what Israel is going to do over the next year or two, as they're finishing up the campaign in Palestine, by the way, they've ramped up their ground invasion on Gaza. We're going to talk about that later as well, right? They're beginning the permanent occupation of Gaza. As they're wrapping up their war in Gaza and ramping up to probably go to war with Iran here sometime before the end of the year, they are going to go on a media blitz. And in this media blitz, Benjamin Netanyahu and all the billionaire Zionists in America are going to wage a war on everyone that is critical of Israel. You guys heard it here first. I've been talking about this for months, by the way, but I'm officially saying it now at this point because I predict this is what's going to happen. Okay? We know for a fact now at this point that your boy Bibi offered Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, $150 million to infuse into Turning Point USA. Thank God he declined it. But trust me, that $150 million was for a reason. The reason why is because Jonathan Greenblatt, the ADL, and many others understand that the youth of the United States are wildly against Israel. The Democrats, the left, done. They don't support Israel whatsoever. And the right is quickly following. Right? And I got to give Nick Fuentes credit for that, by the way. Right? A lot of the Groypers are young men, ambitious, smart, and they see the writing on the wall of the bullshit with Israel, and they've been waking up. So this isn't good for Israel. They've already lost the left, and the small portion of Americans they do have are boomers that are stupid, to be honest with you. That's what they have now. So since they know that doing their media blitz isn't necessarily going to work all the way, they're going to need to also not just do a media blitz and put money into media, they're also going to need to ramp up on the censorship. Love him or hate him, when it comes to Donald Trump's presidency has allowed censorship to chill out. We all know that the censorship was insane during the COVID pandemic era of 2020. We talked about the election, you talked about the jab, you talked about them boys, any of that stuff. You were getting cooked, right? Thankfully, because Donald Trump was a victim of the mass censorship himself after the January 6th situation, he signed an executive order barring the U.S. government from colluding with social media platforms to censor Americans. That did help to a degree, right? And the platforms have been a lot more amenable to free speech, to include the criticism of Israel, which has become mainstream now, which I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm happy to see it, right? We got to enjoy this while we can, get the information out while we can, because I predict that Israel is going to launch the Israeli government and American Zionists are going to launch a huge campaign to censor and also flood your timelines with pro-Israel content. And let me show you guys kind of what I mean by this. One of my guys, you guys should definitely follow him on X. His name is Dominic. Good guy. He reported this, and he's been pretty damn accurate when he comes to reporting stuff. New Israel Foreign Ministry, and he reported this earlier this morning, hires a leading Democratic PR firm to run bot-based program that aims to flood the zone with pro-Israel content across major social media platforms. And we also know that your boy Bibi offered Charlie $150 million to run Turning Point USA. So running bots and offering to pay influencers isn't enough. They're also going to need to censor the influencers that are critical of Israel. You cannot run a successful propaganda campaign without censorship. You're going to need to put money behind the people that do support you. You're going to need to put money behind bots that make it look like your support is bigger than it really is. And then the last step is shutting up the people that are the most critical of you. So I think sometime this year or next year, there is going to be a clampdown on Israel critical podcasters, influencers, talk show hosts, etc. Where's the censorship going to take place? It's going to take place definitely on YouTube, definitely on Twitch, definitely on Facebook, on Instagram, Google. I also predict it'll leak into Kick, even X potentially. The only place I think you'll be safe is going to be Rumble, honestly, with this. Because I even foresee X clamping down on this. Right? I mean, to this day, by the way, FYI, to this day, me, Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, Suleiman, Dr. Lupus, Lucas Gage, Stu Peters, a bunch of accounts, Sam Parker, a bunch of big Twitter accounts critical of Israel, we're still not verified, chat, and we're still demonetized. So even on X, there are costs for being critical of Israel. Though you can tweet, you still get your reach hit, you still can't get verified, you're still demonetized, etc. So I do not trust even X to maintain their free speech that they claim, all right? So that's what I predict. And then on top of that, we know that anti-Semitism laws are getting passed, okay? They tried it with the colleges, it was successful. A bunch of people have gotten deported, visas have got denied, kids have been arrested, put into deportation proceedings. Marco Rubio is talking about withdrawing passports for political speech that they don't like. What's her name? Pam Blondie, right? literally came out and said hate speech is not free speech yesterday or 2 days ago. So I see the writing on the wall, you know, and as someone that's been talking about this for over 2 years now and understands very well how they censor when you talk about this topic, there's no way they're going to allow this to continue. There's no way. Because like I said before, you guys got to understand, Israel is in a critical time in its history. You understand? October 7th was a trigger point to allow it to wage a war against all of its enemies. And they need America's support to take on Iran. They do. They cannot do it themselves. Hell, they can't do it themselves just to exist. And they know that U.S. support for them is waning. So they need to get as much done as they can now while also securing the youth. Because the people now that are young, that are critical of Israel, are going to become lawyers, doctors, and eventually legislators and politicians, okay? So this is just what I'm predicting. That's my analysis. I don't think that we're going to be able to continue to be as critical of Israel as we are on mainstream platforms for much longer. I anticipate a clampdown at some point. But thank God for Rumble. If it comes down to that, it is what it is. But this is what I predict in the future.